Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Angela Coulter, bringing your Consciousness Transformation Ascension Guide, originator of Trinity Energy Progression, bringing you this week's Living the Shift. I am pulling up, so I always do. Here we go. The sound. Okay. In case I need to see that. So, I'm so glad to be here on a Thursday morning because I myself forgot it was Thursday until this morning with things closing in and running together. So I'm glad to have anybody who knows that I do these on Thursday mornings keep time on their schedule as well. But it was an easy topic that came in this morning because it's come up several times this week, I guess this week, in conversation. And it's something that we don't think is a spiritual topic. Is my voice different again? That's so weird. Sarah, thank you for telling me. I'm having some weird things going on with my mic, I guess. So my voice sounds very different. I don't know. Maybe I am channeling something from another level of consciousness, so bear with me. I'm going to have to check this mic. Maybe there's something wrong with it or not. So anyhow, make sure I'm plugged in all the way. Weird. Okay. So the topic is all about, what keeps on coming up are the topics around death. And we don't think that's death. We don't so you have a very basic primal 3D separation, or is it me, right there, or whatever, or it's me, just another part of me, whatever. So we don't think about it as death, like in a consciousness standpoint, from spirituality. Like, we tend to come to terms with death in many different ways, especially the more we can connect in with higher consciousness and realize, I don't know, I've had dead people visiting me for a long time. So I know that they're still there. I know that I've had multiple lives myself. I know I see others in other multiple lives. I know I know my own experiences have pretty much just said, okay, we're always in existence. It's just what form we're in. And my understanding is we're all connected anyway, and we're all one. So the funny thing is, we get really stuck here in the 3D thinking that we are only, good morning, Nikki, that we are losing something when we leave here, as we've known it, the 3D. At a very basic 3D fear level, we have so many belief systems that talk about how death is you can go to hell, you can get punished, It was like a threat to die, right? And that your motivation is you must go and, make your best life or else you go to hell, right? Or purgatory or whatever, depending on your belief system. It was interesting and then we have those who believe that, you just disappear. So in quantum physics, we've shown for sure that quantum physics is that energy never goes away. Good morning, Gloria. Yeah, the belief system is all we really lose, right? So in quantum physics, energy never goes away. We are formed through energy, the energy of divine consciousness or universal consciousness or the quantum field, or whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing, right? And or God, it's the same thing. And we embody ourselves in this separation, in this peace, for this whatever set of lessons or experience that we're choosing to create, right? That's my understanding. So energy always exists. In quantum physics, they've even shown energy always exists. It simply changes form. So that in itself just tells you that the consciousness that exists within us is always in existence. It just changes form, whether we're in this body or we're not. So when we come to that understanding, then we realize that all of our grief and mourning about death is based in separation. It's based in fear that there's some kind of punishment in death, that there's nothing in death, I'm wrong about death, right? And that this is all we get. So when we don't do that, and when we take that away, then we stop being afraid of death. We stop really seeing it as a punishment and something that's bad, and judging it as something as bad. And it was funny because like this past weekend, I was unusual for me, called to comment on something in some group I belong on Facebook. And somebody said, like, do you believe, and it was on a spiritual page, do you believe that we should, like that we're overreacting about this virus? And I said, well, the overreaction is really a collective fear of death. Because if we weren't afraid of dying, we wouldn't do so much in drastic form to try to prevent that. So, I mean, think about it. If we put all this energy, think of all the energy we're putting into, masks and separation, and you could die from this. Now, the fun thing is we have flus all the time and people die from it all the time. We haven't spun it in the way of this fatal, it's this lethal, and da-da. And as soon as we put that out in front, everybody became afraid. Well, not everybody, but a good portion of the population became afraid. Shut down guidance, shut down many shut down guidance, shut down where they'd gotten to just listen to what other people tell them, because, okay, you tell me what to do to be safe, instead of, I already know that safety is, I'm always safe because I'll always be in existence, right? I am immortal in some shape or form. But, it's like, I'm never safe at the 3D level, if you want to look at it one way, or I'm always safe at the consciousness level, because when you stop feeling that, and so here's the thing, it also connects with, there's also a lot of conversation right now about how we are shifting, and we have these overlays, and we've had the overlays for quite a while, but of dimensional overlays, I call them, one form of Earth and another form of Earth, like overlaying each other, that we've been inhabiting basically the same space, and we're getting ready to shift that whole thing. And then the old Earth, the people call it the old Earth, the new Earth, it just different versions of the same thing, right? It's just, as a collective, it's us resolving the shadow side that we've created at this level of reality, right? And so what we have is, you have at the very low level this fear of death, right? And so many people are then being completely motivated with everything they do by being afraid of getting sick and dying and all that kind of stuff. So somebody had posted, so I posted about that. And I said, so look inside of yourself, on this post. I said, look inside of yourself and ask, what am I afraid of? Like, do I not believe in just transforming? Do I not believe that this is a graduation? When we look at life here embodied as this particular individual that we are, and that we're here to complete a set of lessons or experiences that we chose to do while we're in this body, that when we're done, we graduate. So it doesn't matter if you catch a virus, if you fall out of a plane, or if you slip in the tub and hit your head, right? And I use that example all the time. It doesn't matter, because when it's time to go, or you go to sleep and then you never wake up. I've known quite a number of people in the conscious community who've done that over the past 5 or 6 years. And who mourns that? The people who are left behind. Every time I've tuned into somebody who's passed on after their, I call it the reflection period, processing period, right, of transition. They're so expensive in consciousness and beautiful and love-based and all that kind of stuff. The challenge is that some have such heavy beliefs around all this that they, even in processing after they die, hold on to it for a long time, which can cause some darkness and dark entities and all that kind of stuff. That's sort of how I see the way it all sort of functions. If we come to it from a place of it's a graduation, it's time for me to go. Yay! Thank you to everybody for joining me. Thank you to everyone for being a part of this journey, and that we've chosen to cross paths and everything else. Now it's time to go. When we do that, going, you know what? Because I know we're going to see each other on the flip side, or we're never apart anyway, because we're the one consciousness that are just embodied this part of our consciousness into, these bodies, individuals, right? So, and when we step out of this set of dimensions, we recognize and remember that there is no time. Time is simply, a measurement that we've created. And so when we start to look at things from that other perspective, it's like, okay, all right, well then, even if somebody dies today who you really love and are crushed about leaving, or you leave, right? 50 years from now, when they leave, it's going to be like a moment had passed. It was like not even a moment kind of thing, because there is no moment, there is no time. It's all simultaneous, right? So it's sort of mind-blowing. But when we really get firm into that understanding and remembrance, then death stops being a motivator. And think about that statement. Death stops being a motivator. Think about how many things we have here in the 3D that are motivations based on the avoidance of death. And it was fun because I sort of put this up there on that particular post I'm talking about. And then this person comes back and responds, well, what about the people who aren't afraid of dying, who are dying? And I'm like, well, then that's fine. Like, that's a weird question. So that implies by your question that you believe death is bad. So the comment, what my suggestion was, look in the mirror and see what it is that bothers you about death, why you have the fear. And when you let go of the fear, here's the thing. It's not that you say, okay, I'm going to look to die, right? It's that, okay, well, at the time when it comes, it happens. So I might as well live every moment to the fullest. That frees us to this incredible level of saying, well, okay, I'm in acceptance of that when it happens, and it doesn't matter where I am or whatever, it's just going to happen. And I know that I'm never going to be separated from my loved ones. We're all like together as soul family and connected energetically as one and as one consciousness anyway, so it doesn't even matter. And this is all the game that we create by pretending we're separate. Okay, so I might as well have this experience while I'm living here to the fullest. I might as well saturate myself in joy. Why would I do things that would not allow me to express my joy and bliss? Why would I settle for things that are enough if I want to really experience this to its fullest, this particular part of our embodiment and existence in its fullest, because we love this that we created, right? So that's one area to look at. But the other thing that's also really important is with this overlay, right? There are a lot of people in the conscious world who are then, they have the question about, well, I don't want to leave my loved ones behind. What if it's the same thing. What if I leave my loved ones behind? Or what if somebody else, or they get scared, I better get my act together or else everybody else is going to leave me behind, right? You have those motivations. Yeah, well, guess what? That's the same thing as being afraid of death. It's the same thing because essentially, good morning, Ann. Essentially, we just shift into this other dimension or this other level of vibration or band of vibration, I sort of feel like it is. And then we become invisible and pretty much non-existent in the physical to those in the other bands of vibration. That's sort of how we create it. Or we choose. We can do both. We're playing right now. We're doing things differently. And the key is for us to really experience the magic is to let go of this motivation and fear of death, being left behind, leaving behind. Nobody gets left behind. We are all here doing exactly what we chose to do. And so there's no pity for anybody and for their experience, right? There's no, sadness. There's simply love and gratitude for every facet of us expressed here and not expressed here, who are on another level or who are supporting us too in the collective, who are choosing not to be embodied at this time. And nobody is more important than the other, right? Some people say, it's funny, there's this whole thing of oh, well, those who are here on the ground, the physical body, we're the real warriors because we're, going this way. And then you have others that are oh, well, they, got done needing to be in the physical and and there's this implication of hierarchy as somebody's better or worse than the other. It's not. So that's still essence of the ego. The thing is, we're all here in a perfect form, the perfect way, whether here. And by the way, we're here and not here simultaneously, all of us, right? Things are coming back together. I have been seeing just parts of me assimilate back in and having these very vivid experiences in what I call dream world, but really it's just another level of dimensional consciousness. And so it's been so interesting to look at. And it's like we're all bringing ourselves back together. And to do that is to step away. So we're stepping away. And so, first of all, gratitude and amazement at what we chose to create, that we could step back and stop distracting ourselves with all this stuff, right? Now, yes, we're doing it under the guise of the fear of death. But 3,000 things we did before were through the fear of death. We now have just consolidated. So we have one thing. And so we have that being driven at a very lower level of 3D. But then that has given us the space to step back and transcend that, to get to that place of no time and no space, to get to that place of acceptance, and to say those who are passing are choosing to pass for whatever reason. And everybody's got their own reason. Either they're done, or they're there to put out a lesson for somebody else. And like, if we are still looking at the world with judgment and good and evil, good and bad, and all that kind of stuff, we will look for blame. And it's only when we come seeing the bigger picture and transcending that we truly can only see things from that wholeness, and then the blame goes away. You start just seeing things as, okay, this is what's going on, right? This is really the bigger picture, right? And so I talked about sometime, either I talked about it here, or I talked about it with Sarah C. Gavignoni on my Monday morning podcast, Ascended World, our Monday morning podcast, Ascended World. I can't remember where. But we were talking about, or I've been talking about whatever, this transcendence of oh my gosh, I totally lost it. Transcendence of fear. I thought I had said that before. Yes, transcendence of fear. I just totally lost my train of thought because I got way out there. So we are, so we set this up for ourselves, right? To step back, to transcend fear, to be able to transcend the 3D, to transcend what we look at, to transcend expectations of what this world is supposed to look like, to transcend expectations of what we believe we're supposed to be doing. And it's funny, I sat there the other day in this place with, I think was it yesterday? Could have been. Days just sort of melt together right now. But I was sort of like, and I was a little edgy, a little uncomfortable. And I was like, well, what's the deal? Like, I sort of checked in, and what I got was, well, I'm not doing anything right now. And, we're still really attached to that doing thing. We're learning how, not learning, we're remembering, we're relearning, we're retraining ourselves how to be beings. And then from there's where we're ready to act. So, all the stuff we've been talking about, me, Sarah and I, all over those others, in this arena, is having the opportunity to step back, go within, to really get to a place of trusting that inner guidance above everything else, because of that fear, that there is a collective fear, there's a big cloud of it, and that's part of the shadow self coming up to resolve. And we talked about this on a share that we had on Zoom the other day, an energy share group of us had. And so it's like a collective resolution of shadow. And so the more of us who stay in a place of love and holding that place of acceptance and transcendence, the faster that will resolve itself, right? So we can choose how we clarity, yeah. So we can choose how we can, the part we're playing in this. And part of this happening this way, in the way it is, with us being able to communicate this way and everything, and to remind each other and to remind ourselves, is the more of us who transcend that fear, the faster the shadow will be resolved. Now, there's a greater, like last week, there was a big, huge wave of, we've taken away external distractions. Exactly, Nikki. And in many cases, except then what many do, because they're still stuck in the fear, is they distract themselves with what ifs instead of, well, what about now? Like, be now, be present. Last week we had another level So you have a fear. We had another level of collective anger that started coming out because those who now are going, oh, well, they're, you have motivated, you're like, okay, well, I'm fearing that I'm not going to be able to live the life I've lived or have the things I've had, or I'm fearing not being able to go back to normal, right? And, it's funny, my husband said the other day, he's like, I really am sort of tired of people saying the new normal. New normal is walking around with masks. That's not. And he's like, that's not the new normal. The new normal is being inside and listening to your own guidance, doing some stuff from clarity and doing it beyond what other people are judging you about or telling you to do or whatever, because that's what your guidance is telling you is to do. Not that's better, because the better thing comes from the ego. It's the question that I keep on saying about it is what is there for me to do? What's there for me to be? And so like last week we had a really big wave, and it was heavy for a little bit for me. Because I'm typically not drawn into that, but I was. And so I had to really step away from social media for a couple of days to not even engage. I think after I got done with this last Thursday, I just turned everything off and stepped away completely for a day and a half or something like that, to really get clear and calm and centered back into my own space and consciousness, right? Living from your conscious and unconscious self, true wholeness. This is our opportunity, and the more that we all come on board, the more of us who come on board with that, the less we're going to have the next wave of this or whatever. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a big wave of natural catastrophes in the next year or whatever, too. Well, not catastrophes, catalytic events. And I don't like calling them catastrophes. Huge natural events that would precipitate a lot of change. I would be surprised if that sort of ramped up too, depending on what we do collectively. We have so many different scenarios planned that it all depends on what we choose to do. So you can take this time right now. Yes, I know there are many who are out of work. There are a lot of things that are presenting themselves, though, where, you have like holds on rent and mortgages and certain bills and whatever. So, and they've upped unemployment, things like that. So take this moment, even if in, 4 weeks you have other stuff coming, but you don't know what's coming in 4 weeks. You know what's right here and now. And find the peace inside of you. Because I guarantee when you do that, and you stop being driven from fear, right? And fear of death is like, okay, well, what'll happen? I lose my house, I lose my job, I lose my house, I lose this, I lose my family, and then I die, because then I get sick and die, or I'm by myself and I die. Like that's really a lot of our motivation. The other motivation is that like wanting to go back to what it was, even if it didn't serve us, but that's not going to happen anymore. That's, to me, on a consciousness level, the new normal, is going to a place of really, where does my soul speak? Where does my heart speak? My higher self, like what is that whole expression bring here that I have the opportunity to bring here that I haven't done before yet? And so I feel like there's so much potential for magical creations for all of us now. And the first step is truly getting beyond that fear of death, fear of death, and fear of being left behind, fear of leaving others behind, fear of where you are in the continuum, and whether you're here today, gone tomorrow, whether somebody else is here today, gone tomorrow, that to not be attached. What Sarah and I talked about on Monday is this line between consciousness and ego, right? And part of it is knowing, having that acceptance of wholeness, acceptance of I'm here and I'm gone and it doesn't matter, it's all the same thing. And also, what was I going to say on that? Oh, wow, I'm really floaty today. It's important to, the line of connection, and not to egoically step back, because that's what we intend to do, to say, okay, I'm not going to be living, like if I'm not going to be here and I'm going to be going someplace else, however that looks, then maybe I should just not get emotionally attached. Well, attached is the word, and that's what we talked about on Monday. So if you want to get a whole thing on that, you can go to Ascended World and watch our thing from that, our podcast there. But it is that, like, not being attached is an egoic statement. Attached means that I have whole without another person, right? And we've romanticized that. That's another half hour. We're already coming up on this hour, so we'll talk about that another day. But when we are saying, I am in a place of love and wholeness, and I am so grateful that we are sharing this together. And it doesn't have to be romantic. It could be romantic. It could be your friends. It could be your family, your kids, your peers, like your closest soul tribe, right? You can say, I'm so grateful that we've chosen this together. And when it's time for us to move on, we're still going to be connected, but it'll just be different. And when you come to that acceptance, right, whatever that is, and it could be, like I said, your spouse, could be your kids, could be your soul tribe or whatever, then it becomes more fun, because then it's like, okay, now you're free, right? Because there's no obligation of, don't leave without me, or I'll never leave without you, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And when you let go of all that, because you have a tether when you say that, and you'll limit yourself to stay on that tether, when you're free to come and go, then you can say, okay, well, how can we explore this moment in wholeness and saturation and magical creation right now? Like, what can we do without any fear behind it, with total acceptance, in a place of total freedom? What could we do? What are our potentialities? That makes it really fun. And when we take away the drama and the fear, again, of death and of being separated from our loved ones and all that kind of stuff, and realize that we're never separated from them. We're never separated from each other, whether we're in person. And that's another experience we get to try now, right? It's sort of like a little bit of a test case scenario of, we are in, many of us are in quarantine, right? Stay-at-home orders and whatever, and we may start having things come back together within the next month. But many of us have been having this experience of not being around a lot of other people, which, as an extrovert, has been a challenge for me, but besides the people in the house. But it's also coming to the realization of, we are connected, and I can feel you, because we're never apart anyway. This is just a facade that we've created as part of this game. So when we can, what a great experience to be able to, connect in and feel others and feel things about them, without having to touch them or be there. And it is nice. We like the human experience of touching. We like the human experience of emotions that we create when we're in this, dense physical body. And now we remember how even more orgasmic it is to remember that we're just always connected. And then it becomes so fluid, everything we do. We flow through everything in our lives. We flow through our relationships. We are not in fear. We're not being motivated by fear. We stop being motivated by the fear of death. When somebody says, so I said from the beginning, I'm like, I have no fear of dying. So I'm not bothered by this whole virus, nor do I get any guidance that it's going to even be in my reality in any way. So, okay. All right. Well, we'll just play along. That's fine. Until I'm guided to do something else. And I don't judge. And the thing is to come to a place also, for many of us, as we do come into guidance over what others are saying, what the government's saying, what your neighbor's saying, all that kind of stuff. Because I see there's apparently what I was laughing about, I think I talked about it last week, whatever, was that, there were more complaints in my county. There were more complaints last week to the police office of people turning in their neighbors, or like complaining about their neighbors or businesses they believe they should be closed and all that kind of stuff. There were more complaints about that to the police last weekend than there were the number of cases of the coronavirus in my county, which is crazy, right? Because then it's like, okay, so instead of looking inside, now we're projecting blame onto others and we're judging or whatever. And that's the whole thing. When we come to a place saying, I honor your journey and I honor what you choose, as well as I honor what I choose, and we don't have to choose the same thing. Beth says, I get the flu. I also have no fear of getting this. I feel like I can't get this. Maybe I'm just not a vibrational match. Exactly. That's another discussion on another day too, is, that I've talked about and many of us talked about, is when you get into a certain vibration, it just doesn't even exist in your vibration. And it's okay. You could walk through a field of like, a million people with the bubonic plague. If you're not in that vibrational range, it's just not even affect you at all. And so that's part of what we are being asking ourselves collectively to address is, can you do that? Can you go and walk out of your house, even if a million people around you have this virus, and just not be affected because you are so strong in your own guidance and you are so strong in your own vibration of unconditional self-love? If you are so strong in that and so strong in your guidance, and your guidance says it'll be fine, do you trust that and not falter? And I do. So, and I'm constantly checking in, because there are moments, we all have moments where we falter. We're not in the habit of being that strong in that way all the time. And the more you get peer pressure and you get everybody else judging you and calling the cops and everything else, that's like this pressure the ego believes it has to abide by, right? So that's the thing. This sort of turned around beyond, just the fear of death, but it's getting to a place where you just accept this present moment. And if you can accept that through guidance and your consciousness, and that's what you're in practice of, you become in the habit of, then that supersedes everything. And then, guess what? There'll be no virus at all, right? There'll be no way that anybody can control you, because there's that other level of anger that I started talking about before, and I sort of skipped past that. But the anger of many feeling like their rights are being limited, that they're sort of taken away from them, Also, there's also the level of control, population control, and there's anger about that. The thing is, if you stand strong at guidance and you stand strong as the divine, and knowing that you are steered properly in every moment as your higher self sees the whole picture and remembers it, and you allow it more and more, then you can just be fine with every move you make. So that's for you to look at this week. Look at what is motivating you, and like, if you do have any death issues and stuff about being afraid of dying and leaving somebody behind, or, like others think, I'm afraid of dying before I'm done. And I'm like, but we don't ever die before we're done. That's my understanding. Like, it might not seem it in the 3D, but sometimes we actually have to be a catalyst for something, and that's what our death is. Sometimes that's our choice too. So, there's so many reasons. And when we just sort of look at it from different than, the person went to the store. Oh, okay. Yep. They went to another level dimension of consciousness. They actually released the part of their consciousness that was here, so they could do whatever they're ready to do next. Great. That's great. And then the mourning and grieving is for us to look at. The judging of death, it's for us to look at. So look at that this week. And when we say, oh, that's horrible, these people are dying, people are dying every day. People were dying every day before this. Many. and so we take that fear away. What is it we're being guided to do? That's what our home play is for this week. So thank you everyone for joining me. We'll see you next time. This is Angela Coulter signing off on this week's Living the Shift. Have a good one.